welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are Job 24 and 25. Now, all of us have been children at one time or another, and many of us have had children, or maybe even grandchildren. And we would know that the goal of a parent in everyday life is very different to that of a child. A child wants to gratify itself. It wants to have fun. It wants to, it's very short-sighted. It's just like immediately, I want to do what I want to do. Whereas a parent has longer range goals in mind and the good of the child in mind and knows better just because of age. I can remember sitting at a public pool once and I saw a little 2-year-old throwing a tantrum, wanting to get in the water, and the father saying, you can't, you don't know how to swim. I do know how to swim. You don't know how to swim. You can't get in the water. Eventually, the father said, okay. And he just relented, and this kid went and fell into the pool. And Dad sauntered to the side. I mean, I wanted to get up and go and rescue the kid as this kid went to the bottom and then came splattering to the surface. Desperation all over his face. He reached his hand into the pool and he plucked the kid out. And the kid I thought he was going to die. But the father allowed that to happen to teach that little boy a lesson. I doubt next time when he said to his dad, I want to swim, and his dad said, you can't swim, that he wasn't going to listen to his dad. I can't help thinking that when we look at the book of Job, the view of the Father, the Heavenly Father, is so different to ours, his kids. I mean, look at the little tantrum Job throws in chapter 24, verse 1. Why does the Lord Almighty not set times for judgment? And he lists a massive list of sins and people doing horrific things. And then he says, verse 12, but God charges no one with wrongdoing. Now he goes on to say, but his eyes are on all their ways. He knows all their ways. Anyway, so Job's friend, Bildad, comes in with his final accusation of Job. And then he says to Job, listen, don't talk about God like that. How then can a mortal be righteous before God? Or how can one born of woman be pure? If even the moon or the bright is not bright and the stars are not pure in his eyes, how much less a mortal who is but a maggot, a human being who's only a worm. You can see these two kids trying to fathom what God's doing and really not having a continental clue. Now, today things haven't changed too much. People accuse God. They sort of like, when things are going bad, they throw the blame at God. And let me look at two accusations. The one accusation is exactly what Job said, but God doesn't seem to hold them to account. Why does God allow bad people to prosper? Well, let me ask you. You and I, we've all sinned. We're just degrees of badness. And along whose continuum? And I think one of the reasons God doesn't judge immediately is he's giving grace. He's giving kindness to that wicked person. We don't know when they are going to get saved, and we don't know who's going to turn. Some of the most incredible men and women of God have been horrific. You have had slave owners become psalmists. You've had murderers become evangelists. I mean, Paul himself was a horrific man, and God didn't judge him immediately, but allowed time for his grace to win his heart. And in addition to that, you don't know what it will take to turn a man's heart. When he sees the horror of his sin and he sees the majesty of God, we don't know. And so why does God not judge people immediately? They are going to be judged one day. We know that. But why does he not judge them immediately? Well, his ways are higher than ours. He's like a dad who's watching, and he's letting us get up to our nonsense because eventually, the realization is going to sink in. Another accusation people have against God is that, why doesn't he just intervene and stop people doing bad things? Why does he let murder happen? Why does he let rape happen? Well, the answer to that is that God has made us in his image. He's given us a free will. Imagine if God stepped in every time we did something slightly wrong. Slightly wrong. Because who's to say what really is really bad? I mean, if it's wrong, it's wrong. If God stepped in at every moment, every time you swore that your words became gibberish, every time you lifted up your fist to hurt somebody, he turned it into a floppy little rag. Imagine if God intervened every time you stepped out of line. We wouldn't be human. We would be puppets. And so he's created this world. We've turned our back on him. And he's given us a free will. And he wants us to use our free will to turn to him, to devote ourselves to Him, to consecrate our lives to Him. We, like Job, are like little kids who don't see the big picture. But as we read this book of Job, we understand God has something else in mind. He has eternity in mind. He's your good in mind. He has the good of all people in mind.